Ocean pollution has been one of the major issues of this world. It has been one of the issues where we have continuously wanted and tried getting together to solve, however, in which most plans encountering this issue didn't work. If we follow down this trajectory, the future, even though it had been said many times, will be in a dire situation. Even we, the team making this documentary, are fearful of what is to come and what will happen in the future, such as us in our adulthood. We have made this video not just for extra credit in science, but for fun and as well as to spread the message. This is the Ocean Pollution and Conservation Project. First, a theory I have made, which should be taken with a grain of salt. Ocean pollution has started ever since humans have discovered a body of water in which they probably thought that it was infinite and everlasting, which gave them an idea to throw the trash away into the ocean. At that time, if they even were doing it, since this is only a theory I've created, won't have affected the seas that much because there's no huge corporation or high use of plastic from packages, or where so. But it sparked the horrible idea of dumping trash into what seems an infinite overstretching waters. Even with the discovery of how the earth doesn't stretch endlessly, again, if my theory is even correct, humans weren't aware of the damage and would still keep doing it. They also perform practices like fishing, which would totally be acceptable and understanding of why they do it in the past, seems slightly unnecessary to fish this much today, could and should be reduced. Anyways, transitioning off my theory on how pollution started, as our ancestors might be laughing at this so-called theory for all I know. The problems of pollution arise today from the past. If we dump trash out irresponsibly basically anywhere, it will either damage land nature or somehow travel back into the ocean. Taking landfills, for example, which are sites on land where we clearly have the intention of only disposing trash on land, which is just as harmful as if one placed it in the ocean, has sometimes leaked into bodies of water. They have somehow traveled or leaked into oceans, and yes, this is very bad news as they emit toxic gases, one being methane gas, the most dangerous. On a plus for these toxic gases, they also take a huge amount of time to degrade and decompose, with very mixed numbers from different sources, with the general range being 300 to 1,000 years. Plastics can degrade into microplastics, which are another problem because they come from the larger plastic debris itself degrading, or from other sources which can weaken or kill the bodies of underwater creatures. There are approximately 200 million tons of plastic waste at max out of all of these years, with an annual rate of 8 million tons according to multiple sources, with the majority being the Pacific Ocean. This translates to 4 to 5 trillion individual pieces of plastic in our ocean, and adds onto the 4 billion pieces of microplastic in our ocean per square kilometer. Due to this, 100 million marine animals die due to plastic waste in our oceans, not including other even bigger problems. The recycling systems all around the world are trying hard to save nature, save all the places affected by pollution itself, but only 9% of the trash gets recycled. The other 91% of trash can end up into these 4 areas in regard to the marine world if in the ocean. They can end up into a series of rotating currents called ocean gyres, which make them stay in the ocean. They can sink all the way down to the ocean floor as well, which is how there have been records of plastic bags in the Mariana Trench, or they can escape back into dry land again by getting washed up in shores and beaches. But the most impactful is killing marine life by forcing into the stomachs of these creatures as microplastics. Everything, including fish, consumes microplastics ever so often until they finally get wiped out. Turtles can also consume them in mistake for jellyfishes in some cases, marine birds having them stuck in certain areas of the body, and whales can swallow large amounts of food plastic. Even these huge sea creatures are affected by something so tiny over time. Oil spills from irresponsible humans and offshore oil rigs can cause marine life to be severely contaminated. And what is even worse is that they might not even get punished for it if they use a boat that has a Panama flag, which is a way to avoid the stricter rules from marine regulations. There is a sketchy part about the pollution, specifically about the companies. Because for the majority, when we talk about plastic pollution, they think of plastic straws, plastic cups, everything we use. No one talks about the true majority that I have hinted in this documentary through these first few minutes. And that is one that is not in the spotlight in all these environmental companies, which questions its legitimacy on whether we should be donating to these companies who only focus on plastic straws and other items that don't even take up a couple of percent on the graph of the amount in oceans. These are fishing nets, or the term ghost nets, which is also used for overfishing and removal of fish from the oceans. Fishing gear takes up over 10% of all plastic pollution, while plastic straws and cups take up less than 0.1% of all plastic pollution, such as other spotlighted plastic items. If we somehow clean up all the plastic straws and cups in the world, the two items that most companies and the people focus on, it would be safe to say that it did not change the environment for the ocean at all. Fishing gear is also the prime reason for a huge loss of sea creatures, affecting 70% of all sea creatures in the ocean, which will be named the deadliest form of marine plastic by a huge margin. This all gets followed with sketchy feelings on this and in confusion on why we did not even hear about fishing nets becoming a problem, shadowed by all the other items like straws that don't portray a huge deal. And on the topic of fishing nets, Seaspiracy is a documentary in Netflix about the sea that I watched with my classmates in 6th grade from my science teacher, which only then gave me some sort of clarification about what fishing nets are doing. The documentary goes on to the host risking his life to record some illegal overfishing of dolphins and other creatures like sharks in various foreign places in Asia, which I call inspiring and would definitely recommend watching this documentary. The documentary, once again, is mainly focused on illegal overfishing, at one point talking about a term called bycatch, where they throw back excess underwater creatures into the ocean as waste. They also say sharks barely kill any humans per year, most cases on accident, while we kill millions in an annual rate with tens of thousands per hour. Due to just these fishing gears, 1/3 of freshwater fish are facing extinction, with the other 2/3 also struggling to live. Almost no creatures are thriving in a toxic environment like this. In some cases of underwater species, some reach a huge low of an over 99% decrease in species since the past centuries. If we want to save the ocean, quote, it is best to leave it alone as it is before we came through the Industrial Revolution, and they're so. With all this devastating evidence of the crippling underwater environment, sitting there and doing nothing does not change anything, and there must be plausible ways to conserve pollution, some creative ways. A huge chunk of people need to do this, as only a couple hundred people won't change anything. If the majority is not interested in conserving just for the sake of saving nature, even though that should be a huge motivating factor already, we can enforce a billing idea that some parts of the world already does. Applying regulations on fishing nets would help, although there are some opposing countries like Japan and Asia who overfish dolphins. Humans need to intervene with these countries going against regulations and secretly overfishing endangered animals. First, a theory I have made, which should be taken with a grain of salt. Ocean pollution has started ever since humans have discovered a body of water in which they probably thought that it was infinite and everlasting, which gave them an idea to throw the trash away into the ocean. At that time, if they even were doing it, since this is only a theory I've created, wouldn't have affected the seas that much, because there's no huge corporation or high use of plastic from packages, or where so. But it sparked the horrible idea of dumping trash into what seems an infinite overstretching waters. Use of plastic waste to form pavements or infrastructure is more efficient, cheaper, and helps the environment. Plus, if companies are not interested in recycling, it helps them. If people with power do not have intention to make saving the ocean a priority, then we can resort to a compromise where they gain something else with the side earning of helping the environment. We can turn glass bottles into buildings and can do this creatively. All we need is us and the striving motivation to keep doing it without giving up or calling it quits on our project. The only problem we have with this is that there are simply not enough people to do it with, whether it is lack of motivation or not following regulations, or not caring about nature itself. Some simple ways like using solar panels also give us a benefit if planning to stay in a specific place long term. We can do this creatively and both parties end up with a gain. It does not have to be only doing it to save the environment if that does not motivate people already. The future looks grim, but does not need to be that way if we just intervene. We just need guidance and strive. The future may look dark, but it is only in the dark that we can see the stars above. One of our fellow teammates in this project has put together this artwork, which indicates the trash in the ocean of wildlife. The catch is that the trash that is in the ocean that makes it ugly and toxic could have instead been used to support the people and be a part of technology, which is for helping people. This is exactly what the MENA team is doing, where they gain bottle caps or any other plastic waste from the other people or just by themselves and mold them into different objects. Even nearby groups on this island are already participating in this plan. One member of this project is actually a member of the MENA group, who has helped both gather information for the project and also recommended that I, quote, sponsor the group for awareness, in which I did so. Now, on the topic of conservation, we're going to go to my friend Michael here, who's going to explain the machine since he's a part of the MENA group. But for me, that is goodbye since this is the last time I'll be on screen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Gintu from Saipan International School. I am part of the SIS Environmental Club, and this video we are presenting to you today. Today, I want to talk about our club and our plastic recycling machine. Our club operates in Miss April's science class from 3 to 4 p.m. on Wednesday and Thursday. Our club discusses ideas about how to preserve the marine ecosystem and environment, store plastic waste like water bottles, and we use our plastic recycling machine. As a way to help conserve the environment, you can join clubs like these and help to discuss your own ideas about preserving the marine ecosystem. Now onto our machine. This is our machine. It is comprised of three main components: the shredder, the injector, and the extruder. This is our shredder. It runs on a singular motor and 220 volts of electricity. It has an emergency stop button, a reverse button, a stop button, and a forward button. The forward button obviously puts the shredder into forward motion, the stop button slowly stops the shredder, and the reverse button puts the shredder into reverse. The emergency stop button is for when the machine jams while shredding plastic. It should be only used for that purpose. The emergency stop button also doesn't act like the stop button. Well, it does stop, but it automatically stops the machine.